Hey everybody, welcome back. And we are going to be looking at cloud storage today. Now this one probably won't be as long as some of the other videos have been. There's not a whole lot of crazy concepts to understand with cloud storage, but it's a very important topic to at least understand what the purpose is, perhaps how to use it, and why we're going to have it as part of our cloud applications. So without further ado, let's pop over to our Cloud Console, more particularly our Cloud Storage account. Now, I just searched for Cloud Storage in the drop-down here. Obviously, you can find it in many, many places. It's in the sidebar, somewhere, storage, right there. But it is basically how we're going to be hosting files and hosting information for other services to consume. So let's say you have a company logo and you want this to be used throughout all of your services as part of the publicly accessible, maybe a storefront, maybe a accessor page, whatever you're going to be using. You could upload it to cloud storage, give your particular service account or whichever type of IAM strategy you're using, give that access to said bucket that you've created, and then this file would be accessible anywhere. It's not really like how we used to do things with hosting files where it would have to go up onto a load balanced server and then you would point at some IP address or some other domain name. Here, basically just point at a storage bucket, grab the information that you need, and you can incorporate it in all of your services. So the page that you're seeing here is pretty bare bones. So these are all the buckets that I currently have open and for created for various demos. Pretty bare bones again, browser, monitoring, settings, that's all we really need here. Buckets get a name, they have a location, so you can specify where they're going to be hosted, whether they're load balanced or very singular in terms of regions. And then we have a bunch of other information that we'll talk about here momentarily. In terms of monitoring, we can get usage data, bandwidth consumption data. So if we see a bucket being really hammered by one of our services, we could very easily see and drill down into what's going on. Maybe we have a traffic spike in one of our App Engine scripts where it's pulling a bunch of statically hosted images, and we're starting to see, oh, this is consuming all of our bandwidth. Probably going to see a reflection into our, sorry, we're going to see a reflection into our cloud credits, what we're paying. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And then settings are going to be project specific, could also be bucket specific. With this, you get a RESTful API interface. You can set the storage, or sorry, the service account that you are using, which project ID you're currently using. But we're gonna basically look at the browser mainly here. So let's go ahead and create a quick bucket. So create bucket. Now this helps you through a little bit more than some of the other services do. You get like a step-by-step guide. And over here, you get a monthly cost estimation. So pretty common with some of these tools. Lets you know what you're going to pay for. So let's do a quick cost estimate. So let's say I want to store 50 gigabytes. So this is 0.03 roughly cents, or sorry, 3 cents per month about. Data retrieval size, let's say I want to retrieve 10 gigs, 100 gigs, 1,000 gigs? No, data retrieval is the same for free. I thought that was going to update. And then we get our various operations. So Class A, Class B. Class A is going to be create and upload. I've just got this on screen here so you can see it. Permission updates, things of that nature. Class B operations are going to be downloading, looking at metadata, things of that nature as well. Basically, you're getting charged monthly based on whatever operations you're continuously performing. So $0.005 per 1,000 operations, really not that bad. You get a estimated uptime, and what we see here with a 50 gigabyte bucket, 10 gigabyte retrieval size, $1.30 per month. So really not that bad. If we bump this up to 5,000 gigs, this is now 130 bucks a month. Let's bump up our data retrieval size. That's not impacting the cost. I should, really read this. It says free. Let's make this even bigger. 1,300. Okay, so basically check the costs per month. Um, Here, I keep forgetting to read that it's free. Let's say I want 4,300 operations per month. Let's go back down to 500 gigabytes. 13 and 2 cents. Let's bump this up by another 0. 13 and 22 cents. So you can just kind of in a very fine-grained manner, see what your particular buckets are going to be doing there. Bit of an aside. But let's actually create a bucket. So this is my sample bucket for 680. Let's make it unique. Globally unique too, so you're fighting with everybody. Continue. Now you get options here. Do you want it to be region-based, 2 regions, or multi-regions? Now this is basically just going to be where the buckets are hosted. And if you are in a single region, you're not leaving your particular region. So if you're in US East, you probably want a US East centered bucket. But if you're spread geographically, you're probably going to want more than one zones or more than one regions for your buckets to live in. So you can pick that based on your needs. And you can actually see if you look to the right here, right now I'm in region lowest latency, so I'm hosting this on one server, 1022. I go to dual region, 1822. Go to multi-region, 1322. Kind of interesting that it actually goes down for multi-region. But you're going to basically be picking very particular regions if you go for dual region, whereas multi-region, you're probably just going to be automatically assigned to the larger pool. So single region, we'll go US East. And now we get a storage class. And here it's going to ask you basically what type of storage are you performing here. Is it short-term storage with frequently accessed data, meaning, is it like temporary files? Is it files that are going to be used often? Your standard type of storage where I'm going to be pulling images, I'm going to be accessing files constantly, things of that nature. But you also have more archival type operations. So are you archiving it? Are you doing a cold line for something like a disaster recovery? Is this for a simple backup, right? So what's the purpose of this data? And it will help you, set this up as we go. Then we have access permissions that we can specify as well. Do you want very fine-grained access, or do you want a uniform, flat security policy applied to it? If you want fine-grained, then you can go into the nitty-gritty details of who is allowed to access what in the bucket. Or you can just do a blanket security statement saying this service account has access to this bucket. So we'll leave it as fine-grained to look at that in a little bit. Then we can pick which particular encryption key we're using. Is it Google provided? Is it customer managed? Again, if you get to the security lecture, this will probably make a little bit more sense, but basically who is performing the encryption here? And do you want the buckets objects to be retained over time? In which case we could set a retention policy for that. So if I were to go ahead and create this now, this will take a second. We have a bucket. We then see, here's the configuration options that we specified. We can update them if we would like. We have a particular URL for this bucket. There is also this gs://link. This is for using in the Cloud Shell later on. You see that we can specify very particular permissions. So let's say I want to add, add a new member. So let's say I'm going to add myself. Oh, that is an old email address. Okay. What is the role that I want for this cloud bucket, basically? And you're going to see it spread across all the Google services. And if you're familiar with access control lists or ACLs, this should be very familiar to you. If you're not, fine-grained access per user or per group. So we are already getting longer than I thought I would be talking about this for. But basically, if you need a place to store files for your cloud application, you're probably going to want a storage bucket. And we'll have a lab on working with them programmatically, but they're very easy to deal with. And hope you'll have a good time with buckets. Bye, everybody.